Welcome everybody to this session. I'm Christina, and together with my colleague Lucia from ThinkE, we will moderate this session for you. We also have Ariadne in the background offering technical support from the Smart Cities Marketplace. And maybe I will start with some practical issues. The session will be recorded. You are very welcome to give us your comments and questions on the chat on the right. We will try during the session to answer most of your questions as possible. If some of them cannot be answered during the session and you still want to address them, please send an email to us. I believe in the chat we will give you the email address to do so. Welcome to this session. It's about circular cities. Circular economy in cities is, of course, important in order to achieve the European Green Deal goals. The Circular Economy Action Plan is also a big part of this. So we heard also this morning from our keynote speech why cities should and can spearhead the transition to a greener society. In particular, cities can accelerate the transition also to a circular economy by leading by example and also bringing stakeholders together, incentivizing and facilitating circular initiatives. Circular cities are not only optimizing the use of resources, what we often have in mind, just taking care of the waste actually, but in doing so, they also increase their sustainability and also resilience for the future. And at the same time, they improve, of course, the quality of life of their citizens, both in terms of health and well-being, but also in terms of social cohesion. Now, the benefits of a circular city are large. However, there are also some challenges, and there are cities who want to become circular, but they don't know where to start from. So it's very important to share experiences and increase the reproducibility of existing solutions. This is why with this session, we aim to present to you different examples of circular systemic solutions from different cities. We want to also discuss the main barriers and opportunities in different sectors, from construction, plastics, textiles, and also waste management in general. We also want to focus on the role of city governments and the importance of having an interdisciplinary approach and also involve citizens. I will not explain as yet the whole agenda. Maybe you can see it on your screens. There are two main parts. We'll start with three talks in the beginning, and in the second part, Lucia will take over and moderate the panel discussion, where the second part will also be more interactive, and we would really like to address your questions in that part. Now I would like to already introduce our first speaker. Maria Gerogianni is a senior expert in the Innovating Cities Policy Initiative at DG Research and Innovation, and she will talk to us about circular and socially innovative cities. Maria, I will share your slides, and please, the floor is yours. Maybe you should unmute yourself first. On the left top. Or maybe I can do it for you.
Is it okay now?
There you go.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Christina. Dear participants, I will try to be brief to allow time for discussion and questions and interaction and synergies between us. This presentation is going to be distributed in any case. So there are all the websites that you need, and most important, you can contact me or the next speaker, Emanuela or Christina, in case of questions. So as Christina, and aligning with what was said earlier, cities are at the heart of the European Green Deal to achieve a climate neutral continent, Europe as a climate neutral continent, and also to achieve the targets of the European Green Deal, reduction of greenhouse emissions by 55% by 2030. So I have these two messages here. I have the climate neutral cities by 2030 as a means to reach all these targets, and also how, as a citizen-centric, holistic, and human-centered approach. So if we are to take our cities to the next level, implement the circular economy plan, achieve the EU action plan, the European Commission for zero emission pollution, achieve the targets of the climate neutral and smart cities, the Horizon Europe Cities Mission, the EU Green Deal targets, as I said before, but also the new Bauhaus European Initiative. We need to systemically transform our cities, and we need to transform them to research and innovation in cities. So going more local, engaging citizens as city makers, as co-creators, co-designers, co-implementers in the whole approach. And in fact, so I'm moving myself, yes, okay. So, yes. So in fact, the European Union, European Commission has funded this urban sustainable development, has funded cities, in them the circular cities also. So for 30 years of EU funding, so there is a significant knowledge base of tools and solutions to achieve our next targets, particularly Horizon 2020 funded with 3.1 billion euro, and created more than 400 cities, twinning at European cities and international cities as hubs of innovation and living labs. Among them, more than 150 circular cities have been funded by Horizon 2020. Sorry. Okay. So there is a very big network, as I said, of cities co-designing and implementing solutions, having tested them as experimental labs together with their citizens, and promoting also international cooperation. So having twinned with cities in China, with cities in Brazil, in Argentina, in Canada, etc. So as I said, the solution to the problem is really co-creation at the heart of an inclusive urban design, innovative urban design and planning, through multi-stakeholder, multi-level governance, participatory governance, public-private people partnerships towards an urban integrated model. This is also the target of the Horizon Europe climate neutral and smart cities. And as Christina also mentioned at the start of her talk, cities are not, they are systems of systems. So these solutions and these challenges are coexist. So climate change, energy efficiency, circular economy, circularity, sustainability, waste management, water management, all the challenges, health and well-being, social inclusion, innovation, coexist in the city. So we need to break the silos. And as you see, the Horizon 2020 projects, Emanuela is going to give concrete examples of them, have dealt with this cross-sectorial and holistic approach. And as you see, one of the topics was the circular and circular regenerative cities, but all these topics have work cross-sectorial, holistic, and create cross-sectorial clusters. So to ensure that we need to use this holistic approach to ensure that we can achieve the cities mission, the climate neutral cities mission targets of reaching the at least first 100 climate neutral cities that act as experimentation labs, and most important for other cities to follow these cities and become by 2030 climate neutral. So we need to give a new role to the citizens as political actors, users, producers, consumers, owners of the buildings. And one of the issues of priority also under the to achieve the climate neutral cities, to achieve the climate neutrality by 2030 is circular cities, circularity, and the issue of behavioral changes. And in fact, the climate neutral mission is connected, very well connected, linked to the EU circular economy plan. So we need to have at global level. That's why we promote also the international cooperation and increased and faster uptake of existing technologies for climate transition. But as I said, we need to promote a systemic, inclusive transformation process towards sustainable circular cities that where we are promoting a holistic and a participatory governance with cities as city makers, and considering also the principles of the new European Bauhaus to have beautiful, sustainable, inclusive cities, to have new places, reinvent the places that are socially inclusive, and we create synergies between culture, between creative industries, and this is co-designed. This transformation is co-designed with citizens. The Smart Cities marketplace is fully open also to circular aspects and to zero emission pollution. And and you can find more information, and you can match. You can co-network with other partners through the matchmaking process. So the matchmaking process, you can find all the information how to do this matchmaking process in the website of the Smart Cities. And the matchmaking process aims to support urban activities under the EU framework, for instance, the EU Green Deal, the Horizon Europe Cities Mission. I'm not going to say a lot on the publications. This publication, you can see the website. You can, this will help you to see what happened, what was the impact, what we have funded. The yearly urban mapping is going out in 10 days from now, where you can see what exists as networking tools, as projects, as new initiatives, and across European Commission. And something that I would like also to mention is the City Science Initiative. So I would like to invite you to join the City Science Initiative, that is a city for all. The aim is to strengthen the science dimension and to have an evidence science-based policy making to achieve a city for all. So we would like that the results that have been achieved and the existing solutions, as I said, for a significant evidence knowledge base from Horizon 2020 and previous program funding, that can be transferred, can be translated into policy. So strengthen the science policy interface and create a science officers network in the European municipalities. So this is to invite you to join the City Science Initiative. I'm not going to say a lot about because Horizon Europe, you'll know. What I would like to say, I would like to invite you, so I'm advancing this presentation. I would like to invite you to register to the European Research and Innovation Days, 23-24 June, where you're going to hear about the clusters of Horizon Europe and where you can apply, and about the Horizon Europe Climate Neutral Cities that we are now discussing, finalizing the implementation plan to be adopted end of the month, hopefully to be adopted, and after that, launching the relevant work program for cities to join into this process. And last point, information days. Information days for Cluster 5 for all clusters is between 28 and 9 July. And I invite you to participate to the Cluster 5 Cities and Communities Info Day, 5 and 6 July. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Maria, and for trying to speed up as well. I hope people indeed will find this interesting and trying to join you there. I think it was, you also put the point on how co-creation and cross-sectoral holistic approaches are necessary for for the transition to the circular economy. And I think our next speaker, Emanuela, will further give more details on some European projects that work on that. So Emanuela is a project advisor managing the European Commission Framework Research Program at the European Executive Research Agency. And I will invite her to take the floor and tell us a few things about those projects. Please, Emanuela.
Good morning. So can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you see me also? I cannot see myself, but I hope you can see me.
No, we can't. If you would maybe turn it off and on again, or...
Is that okay? Yeah, okay, fine, you can see me. Okay, so good morning, and thank you for the invitation. Indeed, as Christina just said, I work as project advisor in the European Research Executive Agency, which has the mandate to support EU policy on research and innovation, and also to manage the framework programs, the major part, it's not the only agency, so Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe. So I will catch up with what Maria has just presented and illustrate some concrete examples of projects that have been funded in a circular economy and circular cities. Sorry, I disappeared. Can you hear me?
Hear you, yes, but the slide not there.
Can you hear me? I don't see. Okay.
Yes.
Yes, no, so it disappeared sorry, on the screen. So I will show you a brilliant project, which is Reflow, and it is one of these large scale demonstrator projects, meaning these projects are really happening in cities, so are not closed in the laboratories, and are multi-stakeholders projects. So they involve a wide variety of stakeholders. It's not just with university. This is a key point in these projects in Horizon 2020, and it will be the same in Horizon Europe. I'm also happy to say that the coordinator is here, so in case for questions you can also address to her, Cristiana Parisi. This project is coordinated by the Copenhagen Business School. So basically this project is about collaborative and bottom-up approach to circular and regenerative flows in cities. It has the aim to transform the urban metabolism in cities, basically by analyzing and tracking the flows, material flows in cities, to develop new strategies that are co-created, and also implement these strategies in 6 pilot cities. You see here in the slide: Berlin, Amsterdam, Milan, Vejle, Cluj-Napoca, and Paris. And also these strategies at different level, from governance, from citizen level, business level, and so on. So there are some key ingredients. I want just to highlight these 2 words that are circular and regenerative, because I will come back to them later. I will not go into the details of the single pilots, of course. You can see that each pilot is focusing on a specific flow. And just last to say what are the challenges of these flows, but also of a circular approach to cities. Basically, one of the first challenges is exactly these urban flows, because the cities, they don't know what is really the journey of the different flows. These flows usually are independent, are not optimized in space and time. And so the first thing is to understand what are the journey of this material, to track them, to map, and to see what is the different paths. This is an example from Paris. Paris, they are doing fair tracker. It means events, temporary events, and see how the material flows of these temporary events is going. And here you can see the journeys of the different type of woods that can be tracked also by the citizens. and also if it's going to recycling or to upcycling, for example. So what is the final use? There is a lot with technologies on this, especially with the use of blockchain, and I'm not going in detail, but this is one of the key support in smart cities for doing this kind of task. The second challenge is that these flows are not only independent, but also there is a linear thinking behind them. They are conceived and they are designed to have a single use. So this is a big shift, moving from a linear thinking to a circular thinking. We know with the action plan on circular economy, the European Action Plan on Circular Economy, there is a lot also on circular design. And this is a key aspect in Reflow. And I want to tackle it with the third challenge, which is about behavioral change. Indeed, what is a key point in that Reflow has in its approach is really to have a change in the behavior of citizens. So each stakeholders in the project, each partner in the project and in the pilot is involved with citizens to support them in changing their behavior. And I just want to highlight that there are also some key stakeholders, and this is one specific focus of Reflow. This is not an exhaustive list, but it's just to make some example that are the makers, the Fab Labs, the creative spaces in cities which are involved in the project. And these are creating new businesses and a new way of tackling circular economy. Why I'm specifying this on Fab Labs, it's so important because basically they're using advanced technology, for example, computational design, they are doing the third industrial revolution with the digital manufacturing. They are at the intersection with the society because they're doing in a collaborative way. So they're also a new way of using business. And they're helping to change behaviors with creativity because they are helping to solve also unexpected challenges. Just for an example, in the Paris case that I just mentioned before, there is one of the Fab Labs, which is Volume, which is having an incubator on computational design to really think of how to design products for these fairs, which are already in a circular way. So this is just an example of how the project is really working on different levels to have these new strategies on a circular economy. So just to sum up, just 3 key ingredients from Reflow, which is just a selection because the project is much more complex. The first is the technology. We are talking about smart cities here, so it's really indeed very needed. They're using for mapping, for tracking, for the blockchains, for computational designs, and so on. But of course, the technologies has to be under different thinking, which is about a circular thinking and systemic thinking, also at production level. I want just we just inserted a quote of Einstein that is significant problems we face cannot be solved at the same level of thinking that created them. So, of course, this is a very paradigm shift. And the third point is the collaborative bottom-up processes. As I say, they are involving citizens, but it's important to have some key stakeholders that can help to do this. In the case of Reflow, they are the makers. There can be also other kind of stakeholders. And so this is just to give some an example of 3 key ingredients, key ingredients for circular cities. I just want to show that there is a broader landscape in Horizon 2020 projects on circular economy. We have mapped 36 projects, more than 250 million of euros, and more than 150 cities that are collaborating across the different projects in all these different topics that you can see here, from from water to urban metabolisms to value chain. So I cannot go into details, but just to show that really there is a broader landscape. I also want to highlight that there are projects tackling also the issue of cultural heritage and the reuse of buildings and spaces in cities as part of a circular approach to cities. That's it. So I'm happy to respond to your question. And as I said, also I invite you to visit the website and also Reflow, that are the contacts there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Emanuela. And I think indeed people were very interested in the project you presented. We don't have time right now for this question, but we will try to address it in the panel. it's also nice to see that there's so many projects as well that get funding on different aspects, also in terms of cultural heritage. Thank you, Emanuela. I think we have to move forward to the next presentation. We would have here normally Sarah O'Carroll from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and she's leading the Cities program at the foundation. Unfortunately, due to some last-minute circumstances, she is not able to be here in person, but she has sent us a video of her presentation, which we're going to see now, and it focuses on the role of city governments. So I will share the video. Yes.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this session on circular cities. At the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, our mission is to accelerate the transition to a circular economy. We work with and inspire business, academia, policymakers, and institutions to mobilize system solutions at scale for the circular economy. But why would we focus on the circular economy, you might ask? Well, our linear economy is hugely wasteful. We take stuff from the natural environment, we make more stuff with it, and ultimately we throw that stuff away. This is hugely wasteful, and waste doesn't exist in nature. So why do we have to have waste in our economy? We need to transition our linear economy to a circular economy. And the circular economy idea isn't new in itself.
It seems the video stopped.
Governments have a crucial role in creating and enabling the conditions needed for a circular economy to emerge and thrive. Cities will need to try new things and pioneer new collaborations that reimagine how we produce, consume, and manage materials and resources. Recognizing this important role that city governments play in accelerating the transition to a circular economy, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation launched a suite of resources called Circular Economy in Cities for pioneering cities. Its modules have been developed to respond to the growing interest in the circular economy from city governments and mayors, and will offer insights to many urban stakeholders. You can find it open access and public on our website. In our policy levers paper, we identified 5 categories of policy levers that local governments can use to accelerate the circular economy in their city: vision, engagement, urban management, economic incentives, and regulation. All of these policies are interlinked, and there's certainly no one silver bullet. In the cities and towns that we've studied, we've seen that engagement and facilitating collaboration is the key success factor for cities that are leading the transition to a circular economy. So in the time remaining, I'm going to focus on this policy lever. So why is engagement important? Well, it's critical because no one actor can transform the system alone. It's imperative that we collaborate together for system change. And cities are centers for change, and city governments are critical to change the system. City governments can be enablers and leaders in their respective areas, establishing circular economy roadmaps and strategies, investing in circular public procurement and urban management, reviewing the legislative framework to unlock regulatory barriers as well. But if the transition to a circular economy is going to reach scales that it becomes the everyday operating norm, policy has a crucial role to play. A shared understanding and direction of travel is needed so that policies can be developed, aligned, and made interpretable, but also so that actors from across sectors can then also operate with the same intent and lead in their respective areas to deliver the transition. So accelerating the transition to a circular economy requires a shared understanding, it requires collaboration, and it requires cross-sector action. And city governments are well placed to convene stakeholders and catalyze action. City governments can raise awareness of the opportunities, build capacity in others to seize those opportunities, engage stakeholders in the design and application of policy levers, and uncover and facilitate partnerships that otherwise might not have happened. It's not always easy. Sometimes it's challenging to bring these different groups of stakeholders together, but it's not impossible for stakeholders to collaborate together on ambitious, transformational demonstration projects. In the time remaining, I'm going to give you 3 examples of this. Firstly, in the fashion sector and the Where Next campaign in New York City. The city of New York landfills 100,000 tons of clothes a year, 100,000 tons, equivalent to more than 440 Statues of Liberty by weight. To encourage New Yorkers to keep their clothes in use and out of landfill, the city of New York launched the Where Next campaign in 2019. The city collaborated with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation's Make Fashion Circular initiative, as well as fashion brands including ASOS, Banana Republic, Athleta, Gap, H&M, Reformation, and Zara, as well as waste collectors, textile recyclers, and resale companies to make it happen. It was a consumer-facing, collaborative communication campaign that was done together with all of the stakeholders and actors that I've just mentioned. The campaign shared an online interactive map of over 1,100 drop-off locations across the city for unwanted clothing, and it showed New Yorkers how easy it is to bring back unwanted clothes. The second example from the food value chain in Sao Paulo and the Nespresso Hortus project. This project, Nespresso Hortus, was initiated by Nespresso, the coffee company, in collaboration with Sao Paulo City Hall, agroecological and organic food co-op, Cooperis, and composting company Morada de Floresta, to lay the foundations of a circular economy for coffee in the city of Sao Paulo. This project aims to demonstrate the benefits of transitioning to a circular economy for food. Nespresso Hortus will see the coffee giant collect used coffee grounds with the help of Morada de Floresta to compost them and then donate them to the cooperative. The compost will be used to grow food regeneratively and locally for distribution to municipal food banks in order to enhance food security and access to nutritious food in the city. And finally, an example from the plastic sector. This is an example of private sector collaboration that was facilitated by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, but is surely something that could be replicated by city governments bringing together actors to work together on a particular challenge. So in this Holy Grail project, more than 80 European brands, including Procter & Gamble, PepsiCo, and Mondi, are collaborating together to explore the feasibility of using digital watermarks to improve the sorting of recyclable packaging across the European Union. The project started in 2016 with more than 30 companies across the plastics value chain, including manufacturers, waste managers, and academics, all working together for more than a year to prove the sorting concept. The second phase of the project kicked off in September last year and aims to bring the digital watermarks to the mass market for the first time in the European Union.
To the mass market for the first
So that's all I
time
have
in
time
the
for, but I hope that I've showed you that collaboration is possible, that collaboration is necessary to accelerate the transition to a circular economy. And I hope that I've inspired you to see how you can support the transition to a circular economy in your city. Thank you.
That was a very nice indeed presentation from Sarah. We thank her for sending it. Nevertheless, even if she couldn't be here, she gave some nice examples of projects for a circular project in different cities. And also, I think the foundation generally does a very good job on circularity, and we just want to check the resources there for city governments. I think we're over time already, so I would like to maybe here give the floor to my colleague Lucia, who is going to chair the rest of the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christina, and thank you everybody for joining us. We heard in the previous 3 presentations that there is a lot of resources that are there, both on the EU level, but also the different initiatives such as Ellen MacArthur. that cities can reach to, such also the Smart Cities Marketplace, where they can reach to and see for the, let's say, best practices. However, in the panel, we would like to put the spotlight, to say, at the two, let's say, two examples or two different sectoral approaches, and see how we can go from a specific, let's say, project in a circular economy project in the city to a more broad view on a circular city, or a more, let's say, wholesome approach. And here with us, we have two panelists, and I would like to ask them to join me. We have Zala Strojin-Božić from City of Ljubljana. She's the Circular Economy Manager of the City of Ljubljana since 2018. And we also have Professor Greg Keefe, who is a professor and head of the School of Natural and Built Environment at the Queen's University in Belfast. I will first let them introduce themselves for a few minutes and tell us what are the main points that they would like to, let's say, come across in the panel. And then we'll see if you have some questions, or we'll also have some discussion based on the points that were already previously mentioned. So first, Zala.
Yes. Hi.
If you can, hi.
We
don't see
me?
you, but we hear you.
Okay, well,
yeah.
That's better that if it would be the way around.
Yeah,
know?
That's true. That's true.
I am trying to turn on the camera, but it's not working. I'm sorry. So
Okay.
maybe let's just start, and hopefully everything will go smoothly from now on. So thank you for having me. My name is Zala Strojin-Božić. I'm the Circular Economy Manager for the City of Ljubljana. And I will try very briefly and generally and very shortly to explain our story or our path from linear to circular. Which is also very closely related to going from waste management to resource management. So in order to understand where we are now, we have to start in the beginning. And in Ljubljana, we have started to separately collect our waste in 2002 at the collection stations on public areas. And in 2006, we have also added separate collection of bio-waste at the doorstep. This was very important and a very crucial time, because this has also improved the quality of other fractions. And with years, we wanted to be more ambitious, and we wanted to gain more resources. So in 2014, we have joined the Zero Waste Network. We are the first European capital to join this network. And participation in this network, and also preparing zero waste strategy, was one of the points that has also gained us the prestigious title European Green Capital 2016. And in 2016, we started to think, can we be even more ambitious? Can we do better? And we have decided to go or to focus more on circular economy. And in 2018, my working position was introduced within the city administration. This is the Circular Economy Manager. And in 2020, we are now at the point where we are separately collecting 69.5% of all household waste. Why we are very successful? We are also the European capital with the largest share of separate collected household waste. We think that the key ingredients of our successful results are introduction of door-to-door collection and what was mentioned before, cooperation, collaboration, a very good communication strategy. So now we are in the process of preparing a strategy for the circular economy, for our transition to circular economy. And on the right hand, you can see a scheme what we would like it to include or base on. This is actually a scheme of our city hall, And we think that the foundation of everything should be communication, communication with various publics. If we do not exchange information, exchange the data, if we don't, if it is not visible what is happening in the city, then the citizens cannot participate. And on the other hand, let's say as a roof to everything, we have to include all different stakeholders in the city. And what we will be focusing in the next year is written in these 3 pillars. The first one is being a role model, and we feel that it is very important that we as decision makers know the concept of the circularity, the sustainability, and that and that we live these principles, and in that way we can make more sustainable and circular decisions for our citizens and users of our services. So we want to walk the talk. We have also prepared a code for city employees on sustainable and circular decision making. We have also prepared a guidebook with specific examples, how to do it, what is already existing in the city. We are organizing circular challenges for the city employees so that we really get the knowledge and get the experience what the circularity really is. And the second pillar is based on assembling different value chains. In the city, we will focus on plastics, mostly single-use, textile, food waste, and electronic equipment. So that means that we want to work with different stakeholders. The previous speakers have already said that collaboration, participation, and everything is a must in this case. And the third pillar is also around exchanging good practices, exchanging knowledge, learn from each other from different cities. We are also co-chairing Eurocities working group on waste. And Eurocities is representing more than 100 million of European citizens. So the cities want to influence the European politics on it. We think that we are ambitious. We think that we are capable of doing piloting, innovations, and so on. And we are very eager to collaborate with different stakeholders, everything in order to improve the conditions, the well-being in the cities, and of course, being the best service for our citizens. So I will stop at this point and hand it over to Greg.
Thank you, Zala. Thank you. And we're really glad to see that you put a big emphasis, let's say, on this aspect of not just being circular, but also being, let's say, a livable city, the city that serves the people, that is there, that people are proud to live in and improves their quality of life. We also seen that yesterday when there was a question on sort of what people see as the smart city. One of the main things that people are answering in the poll is also quality of life, which is what circularity should help with. I will let Greg present himself. We have a picture for the presentation. Hi, and I'm sorry, I would just ask you and Zala if you can try to turn off and on the camera, because it would be really nice if people can also see you. Maybe
mine's on. There you go.
Okay, perfect. Finally, yes. Thank you, thank you. Greg, go ahead.
Hi, Lisa. Hi, everyone. My name is Greg Keefe. I'm Professor of Architecture at Queen's University Belfast, and I've done quite a few circularity projects in my time. This picture is of my own house. In 2003. I had a young family, and my wife was moaning at me that we need a bigger house. So I was cycling home from work one day, and I noticed a skip, a dumpster, or outside someone's house full of materials. And I thought, I wonder if I could build a house for free, an extension for free. So I spent the next year collecting things I saw on the way home from work, sometimes hiring a van, and sometimes fitting it in the car, sometimes putting it on the roof, until I had enough stuff out of people's bins to build a house. And and it was quite a challenge, because the house is is made completely of recycled elements, or some bits of it aren't recycled, but they're waste products. For example, it has 400 millimeters of sheep's wool insulation that I got because sheep's wool isn't very valuable anymore. I got the 50 pence a fleece off a farm near Sellafield in which is a nuclear reprocessing plant where the animals were too irradiated to use, but they seem to be quite safe. I recycled the glass myself. I took it to Pilkington's, broken glass to Pilkington's. They recycled it for me, put the coatings on. All the timber, most of it some came from a church, some came from just various bits and pieces. The floor was from a gymnasium in a school. The walls are made of plywood, random pieces of plywood and it's got a metal cladding which is made of lead that I found various pieces of lead and lead piping. They were replacing a lot of old pipes in the street, and the aluminium guttering I got made as well from bits of aluminium I took them to Alcan, and they recycled them for me as part of the project. And so I built this house. It was quite complex building it because the building control inspector kept asking me how strong the materials were, how strong the pieces of timber were, and they asked me where I got them from, and of course I said I found them in a skip, and he said, well, that doesn't sound very safe. So I had to test every piece of timber, which basically involves someone jumping on every piece and see if it snapped, and if it didn't, he let me build with it. But it made me realize that the provenance of the materials was really, really important. Yeah, and actually most of the things I found, I didn't know where they came from. So it's really, really interesting. So I think data and provenance of materials and some sort of blockchain sort of system that with our building materials in future will be really, really important. The house hasn't fallen down. I'm in it today. It's still here.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
which is nearly 20 years. It hasn't been infested with moths, which I was a bit worried about with all the sheep's wool. So it's worked okay. Since then I'm now working on a project with a major supermarket chain called the Super Duper Market, which is looking at valorizing food waste in the supermarket and feeding it to fish in a supermarket facade to produce an aquaponic system that produces crops and fish out of waste food. It's been really interesting working with the waste food thing. In the UK, we throw away 1 million bananas a day that are edible, for example, just one food stock. There's and so I think the circularity of food is going to be really, really, really interesting. And one day's food waste in the UK is saving it would be the equivalent of 500,000 tree plantings, which is absolutely incredible. So and one of the things about this using the food in the supermarket to feed the fish is the food waste doesn't become waste till it leaves the supermarket. So there's really interesting ideas about when stuff becomes waste. So, which has been really interesting.
Well, Greg, you bring a few interesting points actually that we sort of wanted to bring up with this session, and that's one is sort of sector coupling. So going from, let's say, food sector to fisheries sector to also construction sector, as you say, from agriculture, if you use sheep wool for the construction, but then also you need the standards and somebody needs to agree on that in the whole regulation, let's say, and procedure. But also what I sort of wanted to ask is, we say bad thing about circular cities is that they work. One thing that is one of the, let's say, barriers with the circular cities or with the circular economy in general is that sometimes raw materials are cheaper or easier to access than the materials that are reused. They can be more expensive, and for the consumers especially. What do you see sort of as a solution of going from these let's say, research or pilot project. So your house is in a way a pilot project to something that's a more, let's say, mainstream solution, something that would be accessible to somebody that is not an expert and doesn't understand everything about materials.
Yeah, it's really interesting, that question, Lucia, because if you take a piece of plasterboard, if you drill a hole in it, it becomes waste. If you cut it, it becomes waste. So it's really interesting, isn't it? That it goes from this valuable thing to something else straight away. So obviously, the dimensions of things you design are really important. You know, I always say it's always the designer's fault. You know, we design these things, and we do. When I built this, I made it so that every component is screwed together, for example, rather than nailed. So I can unscrew the whole house, you know, and take it apart again. So if someone else wants to reuse those materials, they won't get damaged. So I use no glue. I use no plastic in the construction. It's got a breathing wall. It's just exactly the materials are there, and they can be removed really easily. And I think there's things like that we're gonna have to change our practices in how we make things. You know.
How do you see the let's say city's responsibility there?
Well, I think we need. Yeah, well, I think one thing we need is a materials agora. You know, some sort of place where materials can be stored and shared and given out and recycled. You know, one of the problems is that it's really easy to get rid of things by tipping them in a hole. you know, and actually, but quite often you have a lot of valuable stuff, but you don't know where to take it and who wants it. So we need a sort of a materials exchange facility in cities. I think would be really, really great, where we could take our half-finished sheet of plasterboard or our 7 spare bricks or whatever, and people could go and collect them and maybe pay for them or whatever, and it could be a sort of, you know, like an agora or something, you know, where we sort of share this stuff out.
I see a question from Dr. Jackie Taylor in the comment section, and she says, I'm a vice chair of the CEN-TC and would love to know what circularity standards we need to support circularity. Do you have any comments to that?
Well, I think that's a really it's a great question, actually, because the problem is at the moment there's so many things in the waste stream that actually, when you actually start to look at the regulation of the waste streams, it's really, really complex, and we probably need a more sophisticated waste stream separation at source. You know, I don't know what Zala thinks about that, but at the moment we have a really limited set of things: green stuff, other stuff, and plastics. You know, and actually we probably need 50 different streams, really, you know, at some point, and that would allow that to happen, I think.
And thank you for mentioning Zala. Zala, we were happy to have City of Ljubljana here, because we think you're a great example of how one goes from, let's say, one specific project to a more city approach. And in that sense, you started way back with the, let's say, waste management project. And can you tell us, and also other people that are here from the city governments, what would be some of the, let's say, main tips or maybe some lessons learned that you have? Who are the main people to sort of involve in going from one point to another? So from a project to a more, let's say, circular city solution. You're muted. Maybe I can unmute you. Yeah.
Is it working now? Yes.
Yeah.
If I can just comment on Greg's comments, yes, I agree with him. The more we will separately collect more of different raw materials, then more we can reuse, you know. But the problem in the city is, I believe, that we don't have the space to have like 50 different bins. So I think that the new also design of these containers will have to start you know, being designed. As for your question, I would say I would start with no pains, no gain. You know, the first step is the hardest. to decide that we want to do different stuff, that we see the city as an ecosystem where everything is interconnected, interrelated, and if you change one puzzle, you change the picture. So this is the first step, to see the city as an ecosystem, and that everyone is influencing everybody. And I think that in every city you can already find stakeholders that are willing to share, to participate, and I think that you should build on this. If there is a will, there is a way, and the world is full of opportunities. So I think in the cities, the variety of stakeholders is actually the wealth of that. And I think that communication is a process, and the quicker or the faster we start working in interdisciplinary groups, the better solutions we will find. But learning the common language is really a process, and it really takes time. So I would say that interact as much as possible, ask questions, keep an open mind, be bold, be brave. Don't be afraid to fail. Learn from your mistakes. Learn from mistakes of others. So each city has its own story. Find your own strengths and build on them. Don't count on copy-paste systems. Something that is working in Belfast. I mean, in this house example, it might, but in many other cases, it might not work as simple as copy-paste. So. Keep an open mind and be bold and be brave, I would say.
Thank you, Zala. That's very motivational. But one thing that we also touched upon is sort of a construction sector. And there I would like sort of to ask Emanuela for a comment from their project, maybe reflow of another project, because I know that in Europe, we have a lot of cities, they have these, let's say, historical areas or cultural heritage areas, and how do we deal with those buildings? Can we reuse them? How do we make these cities more circular? What is the main thing to do there in the construction sector? Do you have an example maybe that we can call upon?
I have to say that I think there is one thing that is not just the construction sector, but it's the planning also sector. Because if we think also always on the construction sector, a lot of time there is you build and then you reuse the waste from the building. I'd just like to highlight that sometimes it's also better to reuse the building somehow. And it's so it is first a matter also of reusing spaces and buildings. But yes, of course, for the construction sectors, there are a lot of opportunities. Also in the way that the buildings are conceived and are designed. And there are many projects on this. I have to say, I can mention some of them because now they're doing a lot of different experiments. One is the CLICK project on adaptive reuse of cultural heritage buildings. And then there are some others more on circular materials like bamboo and like city loops that are more on the construction sector.
If you don't mind, if you could also share the links later on in the chat for people they can follow the project, that would be great. And I know we started the discussion, and I think discussion on the circular cities could go on even this whole forum, because it's a really complex project, and unfortunately we only have this 1 hour. So I would like to thank you all, and I would like to ask Maria if she can maybe give us sort of a summary or let's say an overview on, sorry, oh, what happened? We don't see you anymore. Maria. I was hoping to get closing remarks from Maria. Hi. Yes, you're muted now.
Okay.
Okay, now we hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so as you said, it was a really great dynamic discussion with a lot of good examples of real life. And we could go on with this discussion a long time. I'm going to just mention, I heard a very nice word, ingredients to success. So ingredients to success and circular cities. So I heard the moving from a linear thinking of circularity to a cultural, to a circular thinking, to a behavioral change of citizens, include more stakeholders, bottom-up approach of stakeholders, citizens engagements, Fab Labs as an ingredient to key to success, and changing this behavior of citizens with creativity to attract more businesses, industries, mapping the existing blockchains, creative design, cultural heritage and adaptive reuse, not forget that, but also to think of all the existing sectors and how challenges and sectors coexist and influence one each other, like going from the construction waste to the food waste to the materials and cultural heritage adaptive reuse. Use collaborative processes, all these nice messages have been given to us by Emanuela. Transition to greener and circular cities needs to optimize resources and to go from waste concept to a recycling concept to new resources for life. Also from Sarah, policies need to be aligned, they need to be interpretable, citizens need to understand them, bring all actors across different sectors together, raise awareness, capacity building. In that, I think the City Science Initiative that I mentioned, which is a neutral space to bring everybody together to discuss cross-sectoral, but also to discuss across sectors, like one of them being the circular cities panel discussing, is a good solution. We have very nice examples from real life, like how to save the clothes going to a landfill, a very interesting example for ladies, but also very interesting example that Sarah mentioned was the Sao Paulo delicious coffee, and how also, which is interesting for everyone, becomes also a key issue in the circular economy, and what is really the utility and importance for all to achieve the circular cities. Another thing that we heard as ingredient success was so to go beyond cycling, to optimize resources, using also these examples. We need to reimagine to produce, consume, manage the materials and resources, and we need to use a holistic approach. We need to bring, as I mentioned myself, research and innovation in human-centered cities, going more local level, citizens-driven. City governments need to be the enablers in all this innovative process. And also not to forget that the climate neutral and smart horizon Europe mission to achieve climate resilient cities brings also in the issues of circular and regenerative cities. So to become climate neutral, climate resilient, cities need also to be co-created with citizens, need to be circular, and give a new role so in this to citizens as political actors and users. And this is one of the priorities of the city's mission. But also remember to align with the EU Green Deal targets, the new Bauhaus initiative for beautiful, sustainable, inclusive, reimagined places, where we bring together culture, creative industry, so adaptive reuse, co-design of transformation. I liked also something as success, ingredient success, what Zala Bozit from Ljubljana. Congratulations that you started this process since 2006. And of course, you were the Green Capital for 2016. So moving from waste management to resource, and the door-to-door collection of household waste, for instance, communication strategy training of citizens to do this. and share the best practices in the city, but also between cities. Share all these nice examples. For instance, Manuela mentioned. I would like to announce one again, the urban mapping that we did together with Manuela, where we mapped all the initiatives, projects funded with websites and all the information annexes. You can find is a booklet, everything you want there. Having also other sectors, not only circular, and also the nice example of Greg. So the waste food in supermarket and how a waste can become a resource. Really, we need to use our imagination. We need to reimagine and use, for instance, the market, the resource, the material agora that you mentioned, the market to exchange, for instance, to go and exchange and collect. Of course, with a blocking issue to overcome the space.
Well,
so
thank you, Maria. Indeed, there is a lot of topics mentioned today, and I would like to thank everybody that participated in the panel discussion and everybody that was here with us. And I saw there was a lot of comments. I see there is a lot of interest. I hope you enjoyed the rest of the Smart Cities Marketplace Forum, and I hope that you use Smart Cities Marketplace as a place to exchange experiences between cities. Thank you very much, everybody. I hope you have a good day. Thank you. Thank you also, Christina and Ariane. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't forget to send us your
Bye.
questions.
Thank you.
We didn't answer them. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.